Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Psycho, and I've got another Fear the Walking Dead review for you all today. And this one is actually going to be my review of Season 2, Episode 4, titled Blood in the Streets. Now, right off the bat, I just want to say, this is one of my favorite Fear the Walking Dead episodes we've ever had. I do feel like it is on par with some Walking Dead episodes, and I know I've said this about episodes earlier this season, and I know a few of you are thinking, come on Psycho, you're getting a little repetitive here by keeping on with this statement, but it really is my opinion, and it's the honesty of my opinion, because I do believe that this series is really improving over the second season. It started off with a decent Season 2 premiere, and it's only getting better right now. It just keeps on going uphill and uphill, and the episodes just keep getting better and better. So I'm very happy to see this series improving, and it's really not as bad as people are saying it is. Now that I've addressed that, I just want to mention the intro of this episode. The intro was so beautiful and well done. I really like how they used the preview they gave us last week as the intro, because it starts out the episode with a lot of mystery, and it keeps us captivated by making us think, why is Nick no longer on the yacht? Why is he now on the shore? And we're wondering what's going on with all of the boats and everything around it. In addition, the scene with all of the abandoned tents was definitely one of my favorite shots from this series so far. It's just the simple things that I really enjoy, especially cinematography, and just seeing all of those tents abandoned and all of those people gone from the places that they were camping at just seemed a little ghostly and lonely, just by seeing all of the wind breeze through the tents and the doors flapping and everything just swaying in the wind, in addition to the note that they wrote on the sand. It's just one of those messages that has a little backstory that you can predict on your own, and it really makes you wonder. I'm really starting to like Nick even more, especially after this intro. It's definitely showing that Nick is this survivalist character, and he can do some pretty awesome things to get out of situations. Just like the one walker, he's being smart, he knows that they're attracted to sound, so he's throwing different objects in different directions, that way he can get past that walker. And it follows him towards the tent, in which he shuts the screen door, and actually gives him some time to gather his thoughts, and get a good chance at killing the walker without putting himself in danger. After that, we see him put the gut strategy to use once again, and it's something I like seeing being used frequently, and that is because a lot of people question why they don't use the gut strategy more in The Walking Dead, and they often give the reason of sanitary conditions and the diseases that you can contract, but it's also kind of cool to see this character that isn't really afraid to get down and dirty because they want to live, and that person is Nick, and it really shows that he is a true survivor, similar to Carol and Rick when they learned about this strategy. It's just nice seeing this strategy being put to use more when it works so well. After that, we move back on over to Abigail, and right off the bat, once again, we get some more action happening, and that is where the people start trying to board the boat on Chris. Of course, he's been given this moral dilemma of whether he should shoot these people on the spot because they can possibly be a threat once they get on board, but you see that there is a pregnant woman, and no matter what kind of hardened survivor you are in this world, you pretty much have to be an absolute villain to shoot a pregnant woman without knowing her motives or reasoning. And so for the reviewers and people out there that say it was a stupid mistake to let them on the boat, if you do see a pregnant woman bleeding, especially only a few weeks after this apocalypse world has started, you're going to give her a chance just because you still have that humanity left. Chris is probably one of the most hardened people in this show as of now because of what we've seen him do, so if he really had to, I think he would shoot those people, but it's kind of hard to shoot a pregnant woman right on the spot when you know she might need some help. Anyways, moving on, I just thought it was such a cool premise, just due to the fact that you don't really know whether these people are good or bad at first, and at first you assume they're bad, but the pregnant woman, and actually seeing her being pregnant, that gives you a little bit of proof as to thinking, oh well, these people actually might need some help here. I was trying to find some reasoning of how these people could still be bad though, and trying to look around things. Maybe that woman just put something under her shirt, maybe she put fake blood, and then we finally get that big reveal when Alicia is hearing the voices under the boat, and I didn't really understand what was happening first. I heard her listening, but I didn't know the significance of that until the moment where we finally see her get on the middle deck and she gives that look. And I love the acting in this because all she had to do was give that one look, and it it really revealed to me exactly of what everything was happening, because you think, why would she be worked up over this? Why is she surprised? And then you realize she recognizes this voice, and that she realizes this is the person, Jack, that she has been talking to. And I really got goosebumps when I noticed this, just because it's something kind of shocking, even though it does feel like you should have expected it. And I know a lot of people probably were expecting it, but for a while there, I'd actually forgotten about that. I just felt like the acting on Alicia's part at that moment was really great, and it revealed what was actually happening to all of the viewers. Seeing the pregnant woman hit Madison in the head and then start tying her up, as the other guys on the top deck are tying everyone else up and taking them hostage, it was just one of those moments that all happened at once, and it's like, wow, this is really setting in, and this is actually pretty intense. And I just felt like that scene was really done well. The actors were actually not as bad as I would expect them to be on this show, and I'm glad that they chose these characters, because they could be a lot worse as villains. And sometimes it is hard to portray a good villain as an actor, because you may come across as this cheesy, stereotyped, oversaturated villain that we see in every episode or every show, and I feel like the actors did a decent job of balancing being the villains in this situation. We then see some of the villains shoot Strand's lifeboat he has out there running, and of course Strand is trying to leave. He's one of those characters where he's really smart and confident, but he's also kind of a coward when it comes to these situations. So he's leaving the yacht, and they shoot his lifeboat and he starts sinking. He loses his little walkie-talkie or telephone or whatever that was, and you can tell that he really, really wants to get it as it's falling in the ocean, and he's trying to get it, but he just can't. We then get some very interesting backstory, and it was something I was actually surprised to see. I wasn't really sure if we were going to get any more backstory, especially with it actually displaying it to us on video, so I really enjoyed this backstory. It's nice to get some insight of who Strand was before this apocalypse situation. Honestly, any scenes with Strand is something that I find enjoyable, so I definitely love this. We see his interaction with another businessman at a bar. I can't remember his name. I know Abigail has some significance. I don't know if it's the man's name or the other guy's name. But anyways, let's just go with that. They start discussing everything, and Strand is talking about how he's bankrupt. And then they go back to the room. And this is where it got a little interesting, because I started wondering this at first, and then it kind of swayed away from the idea, and I was like, okay, well, I guess that's not going to happen. This was at the moment where Strand is taking all of the guys' clothes off, and he was moving him around and holding him in a certain way that kind of felt like Strand had this attraction to him, and I didn't want to be a little trigger happy on just assuming these things, because you can just be friends with a person or know a person and not be gay, but these things did feel a little suspicious towards that idea, and then we got that later confirmed at the end of the episode, but we'll move on to that later on. I really like how they sort of toyed with our emotions on this, in which we thought maybe Strand is attracted to this person a little bit, and then they shot us down by him taking the credit cards, and then we realized, oh well, that's the reason he was getting close to him, because he was trying to get his credit cards in his suit, so that makes sense. I enjoyed this tug and pull relationship of getting us to think one thing, and then pulling us back and thinking, oh well, that actually might not happen. I found the quote that the guy said interesting, where he said, I might remember this, I might not, something along the lines of that, and that kind of just caught my ear a little bit. Moving back on over to the boat situation, we basically get a little bit of interaction between Travis and one of the main villains. They're talking about Connor, Alicia is talking to Jack, and when Alicia was actually talking to Jack, I know she is trying to manipulate him just a tiny bit, but I also feel like she has some feelings for him for some reason. And if that's true, I'm really just not going to like that, because it seems as if she is catching feelings way too easily, especially just over a walkie-talkie, over things that could be lies. And I really just hope she's trying to manipulate him now, because just the fact that she is risking her family being in danger, and I do know that this is really her only options as of now, to be nice to this person and see if she can get a little leeway and get her family to safety, but she's also taking the risk of these people just being bad and killing all of her family, so that's one thing you really have to consider in this situation. Like I said just before, Travis is telling the main villain that he can fix this boat without a key and that Strand had the key, so he's going and trying to fix everything, and I love the subtle hints of how he's grabbing the screwdrivers and he's putting one up his sleeve and saving it for later, and then starting to fix the machine, and I just like little things like that. Sometimes you might miss it if you're not paying much attention, but it's small things that I really appreciate. Up on the middle deck we have Madison, Chris, Daniel, and they are all trying to get out of their own situations as well. Madison is asking Daniel if he can get out of the ties, and Daniel's telling her to give him a few more minutes. So Madison starts talking up this one pregnant woman. I actually really love this chain of dialogue, just because it brings some ideas to mind that a lot of fans have wondered over time, but it's never really been addressed in The Walking Dead. This is where she's talking about the baby, and we can clearly see she's trying to get the woman worked up, just because if you start getting worked up, you can't really pay attention to small details, like Daniel trying to get out of his ties. It was just really cool to see Madison getting under the woman's skin, and then asking her, well, if you haven't had the baby move in a while, what if it turns? What if it eats you from the womb? And this is just such a cool idea, because I would actually love to see it implemented into the show, because we haven't seen anything like that in The Walking Dead, and I would like to have some of those questions answered. We move back to Nick and that whole other island that he walked onto and his interactions at that place. And I just love seeing Nick doing his thing. It's just funny seeing him bounce a basketball through the street just because that's his character. He's this type of character that screws around. He doesn't really care for walker years. He's just an enjoyable character to watch, in my opinion. Before I go on to discuss a little bit more with Nick and the person he meets, I do want to talk about the rest of the flashbacks that pull everything together into an interwoven story perfectly. This is where we get more interaction with Strand. We see that Strand actually talks to the person that he stole his credit cards from a few months later, and he gives him a pardon as long as he pays the money back. And we see as characters, these people start to develop and grow closer as friends and even more than friends. After he takes a visit to Strand at his place, we then see the next flashback of him and all of these really fancy villas and palm trees and everything like that, and Strand is trying to talk about business, the other guy's talking about the beauty of nature, and that the place they are relaxing on as of now is the best place in the world in his opinion. We then see that little handhold, and that was something that kind of kickstarted that idea of maybe they're into each other once again, and I actually just started thinking this really could be a possibility here. We move back on over to Nick in this city, and he finally found the person that was with the guy Strand met. And then you realize this is the person that Strand has been trying to find this whole time, and it makes sense. It's something that we could have never really guessed before, but as this story progresses and goes on throughout the episode, we see a lot happening and it all comes together perfectly. We then get some more cool moments with Nick where he's like, don't get any blood on my leather interior seats. And of course this is just funny because this is the apocalypse with zombies and everything, and this guy's worried about his interior seats and small stuff like that. So it's just funny to still see that in this world. However, that mystery is still lingering as to what's going to happen with this person until we finally realize that he is going to get them past Mexico and that he doesn't plan on staying at this place. In addition, he isn't aware of the people that Strand is with. He explains to Nick that they're trying to get them across the Mexican border, and then we see him go down the hill with the car, with the Spanish music blasting as the walkers come in the background, and that's just another funny moment, just showing that this guy's rich, he doesn't have many problems, and it's just one of those funny things. We move back on over to the yacht, and we see Travis come upstairs. He puts some of the weapons in between the cushions, and I just really love that subtle detail as well, because if he does have to go and start up the boat, that guy is going to be watching him constantly, and he won't really be able to make any moves. It was also smart because he picks giving it to the people where the woman is outnumbered. She's a pregnant woman, of course she's going to be a little weak, so the group with bigger numbers and a weapon is most likely going to be the side that's going to win, which was smart putting it on their side. As Connor and the rest of the group start getting near, they go up, introduce everyone to the group on the yacht, and then they finally talk everything out. They take Travis and they take Alicia, and the rest of the people are left on the boat. This is a part where I actually started to wonder, are they really going to listen to Connor and take these people back with them? Or is he going to disagree with this leader? Because we have seen that this guy doesn't necessarily agree with Connor. This is where Nick and Strand's friend come in clutch, guns blazing. I really love how Strand's friend didn't really hesitate at all when Nick says the people with guns aren't on our side and we don't know them. He just starts picking them off, and I love that. And we get the moment where I think Madison stabs one of the main villains right in the stomach. That was pretty awesome, just seeing Madison go after him. And then Chris go after him as well. That was kind of cool, just to see him get that revenge on that person and actually go after a living person again. As everything settles down, they go get Strand, they get a little more interaction with Strand's friend, and they all talk everything out about what's going to happen. We get the final flashback, and this was a really big shocker scene for probably a lot of the audience members, including myself, and this is the moment where we get Strand in his final interaction with his friend, where he says he's going to leave for a few days, and then the other guy's talking about his worries, and then we finally get the kiss between Strand and the man, and we realize that Strand is actually gay, and that has confirmed some of my possible ideas throughout that episode. This was just something that they really didn't have me expecting. I like how it was kind of shocking up until now because we didn't really expect any reveal like that, but I definitely have no problem with it. I like the fact that we are going to have this badass gay character in the show because we don't really have this badass gay character in The Walking Dead or Fear the Walking Dead. I mean, we do have Aaron. He's pretty awesome. He's my favorite Alexandrian, but we don't really have like these badass gay characters. Just like in some other TV series where we have these other awesome badass gay characters. Just like in The Wire, I know there's a character that's probably one of the fan favorites from that TV series. We have Jesus from the Walking Dead comics. They haven't really discussed anything like that in the show yet, but I can assume it's probably going to be revealed soon, and he's a cool character as well. But overall, Strand is a character that I just really enjoy, and something like that definitely isn't going to change my opinion about him. I think Strand is an awesome, confident character, and I just love his cockiness he has to him, the confidence. He's impulsive, just like his friend stated in this episode, and I just like the way he handles himself. And even Nick's an awesome character. We have other really cool characters like Daniel. So there are characters in this show that I really enjoy. I feel like they did a really great job on interweaving this story of this episode and giving a little backstory to Strand and the reasoning of why he is trying to travel so far across this place just to get to one person. And I know a lot of us actually thought it was going to be one of his loved ones. And this little story we have right here, it's not like this little add-in was something that was just thrown in for the audience. It's something that the story has been built upon, and it explains why Strand is so desperate to get to this person and get across this ocean to Mexico to find this person. This is just my thoughts and review upon this episode. As always, I really appreciate you all watching. It means so much to me. Make sure to leave in the comments of what you thought below of this episode. I really loved it, especially with the intro. All of the intruders we had on the boat were really cool to see, especially with the scene, just them getting on and us wondering whether these were bad people or good people. Strand's story interweaving into the plot, that was done very well. I just feel like this was a great episode overall, and it's probably one of my favorite episodes of this season of Fear the Walking Dead. As always, thanks again guys, peace out.